Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
The darkest corners of your psyche house, the very shadows that have been quietly sabotaging your rise to greatness since the day you first felt the sting of a true failure. You must descend into the depths of your own history to confront the ghosts of your insecurities and the whispers of inadequacy that keep you small and predictable. Most people spend their entire lives running away from these internal monsters by burying them under mountains of shallow distractions and hollow accomplishments that provide no real peace. By choosing to stand still and face the parts of yourself that you find most repulsive, you are initiating a process of radical integration that is necessary for total sovereignty. This is the moment when you stop being a victim of your own hidden traumas and start becoming the master of your internal landscape and your future destiny. True strength is not found in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to look your deepest terrors in the eye and refuse to blink even when your soul is trembling. You have built a fortress of excuses to protect yourself from the pain of your own shortcomings and the weight of the potential you have yet to fully realize. It is time to tear down these walls and acknowledge that your greatest enemy has always been the version of you that is too afraid to be seen as flawed. When you stop hiding your wounds, you strip them of their power to control your reactions and your long-term choices in the high-stakes game of life. This level of vulnerability is the ultimate form of courage, because it requires you to stand naked before the truth of your own humanity and your own capacity for errors. The voices of doubt that echo in the silence of your mind are often the distorted reflections of voices from your past that never had your best interests at heart. You must learn to distinguish between the constructive criticism of a mentor and the destructive poison of those who wanted to keep you at their own miserable level. By identifying the source of your internal conflicts, you gain the ability to dismantle the false narratives that have been holding your ambition hostage for far too long. This intellectual and emotional cleaning process allows you to clear the path for a more authentic and powerful expression of your true will and your unique vision. You are not a collection of other people's opinions, but a sovereign entity capable of defining your own worth through the quality of your consistent actions and your results. Bitterness and resentment are the chains that bind you to the people who have wronged you and the events that did not go according to your carefully crafted plans. You must realize that holding onto these negative emotions is like drinking poison and expecting your enemies to suffer the consequences of your internal decay. To face these demons, you must practice the cold and calculated act of forgiveness, not for the benefit of others, but for the liberation of your own spirit. When you release the weight of the past, you find that you have significantly more energy to invest in the building of your own empire and the cultivation of your legacy. This emotional freedom is the prerequisite for the type of clear thinking strategy required to navigate the complexities of power and influence in the modern world. The ego is a deceptive companion that often disguises itself as confidence while secretly leading you toward the precipice of arrogance and eventual total destruction. You must be willing to kill the parts of your identity that are based on the need for external validation and the approval of the masses who do not know your soul. This process of ego death is necessary to make room for the birth of a more grounded and resilient self that does not crumble when faced with public criticism. By embracing the humility of a student, you ensure that you are always in a state of growth and that your eyes are open to the opportunities others miss. The version of you that needs to be right all the time is the very thing that is preventing you from being effective and successful in your primary mission. Procrastination and laziness are often just masks for a deeper fear of success and the overwhelming responsibility that comes with being a person of true impact and authority. You hide behind minor tasks and trivial entertainments because you are terrified of what might happen if you actually gave your full effort to a goal and succeeded beyond your wildest dreams. This fear of your own light is the most dangerous demon of all, because it keeps you anchored in a state of comfortable mediocrity that slowly poisons your potential. You must confront the reality that you are capable of changing the world, and that your refusal to do so is a betrayal of the life force that was given to you. Accepting the weight of your own power is the first step toward wielding it with the precision and the wisdom of a true leader. Shame is a silent predator that thrives in the dark and feeds on the secrets you are too afraid to share with even your closest allies or your most trusted mentors. You must bring these secrets into the light of your own conscious awareness to prevent them from rotting your integrity from the inside out and destroying your character. When you acknowledge your mistakes and take full responsibility for them, you transform shame into a powerful catalyst for growth and a lesson in the necessity of personal discipline. This radical transparency with yourself creates a level of internal harmony that allows you to operate with a single-minded focus and an unshakable sense of purpose. You no longer have to waste energy maintaining a false image, because you are grounded in the undeniable truth of who you are and what you have overcome. The envy you feel toward the success of others is a clear signal from your subconscious that you are not currently living up to the standards you know you are capable of achieving. Instead of allowing this feeling to turn into a bitter resentment, you must use it as a map to identify the areas where you need to apply more discipline and more effort. Your demons are often just your own untapped potentials crying out for the attention and the cultivation they deserve but have been denied for years. By transforming envy into a competitive drive, you turn a destructive emotion into a fuel that propels you toward the heights of your own unique and personal excellence. You must stop looking at what others have and start focusing on the work required to build the life that you were meant to inhabit and lead. Addictions to cheap dopamine and hollow pleasures are the symptoms of a mind that is trying to escape the reality of its own unfulfilled desires and its own lack of direction. You must face the truth that you have been using these distractions to numb the pain of a life that is currently moving in a circle rather than upward. Breaking these cycles requires you to sit in the discomfort of your own thoughts until you find the clarity to decide on a new and more productive course of action. This internal silence is the forge where your will is hardened and where your commitment to a higher standard is finally tempered and tested for the long journey. When you are no longer a slave to your impulses, you become the master of your destiny and a force that can no longer be ignored by the world. Inner demons are far from being mystical or supernatural entities that haunt your spirit from an external void beyond your control. They are simply unresolved neurological patterns and behavioral loops that have been repeating themselves with mechanical precision for most of your adult life. These patterns are deeply etched into the circuitry of your brain because at one specific point in your history, they served as a vital defense mechanism against perceived harm. Perhaps your tendency to withdraw was once a shield against a chaotic environment, or your aggression was a necessary tool for survival in a competitive space. To dismantle these structures, you must first strip away the mystery and view them as outdated software that is no longer compatible with the high-performance life you are currently building. Your brain is a biological machine designed for survival rather than for the fulfillment of your highest and most complex personal ambitions. It keeps these negative patterns alive because it views the familiar as safe, even if the familiar is a cycle of self-sabotage and constant internal misery. These demons are essentially biological leftovers from a version of yourself that was operating in a state of scarcity and fear rather than a state of abundance and strategic power. You must recognize that your mind is not intentionally working against you, but is simply following a set of ancient instructions that have not been updated for your modern context. This understanding allows you to move from a place of frustration and self-hatred to a place of objective and calculated engineering. Facing your internal shadows means making the executive decision that these specific behaviors no longer serve the grand design of the future you are manifesting. You cannot negotiate with a pattern that is rooted in the past, because its entire existence is predicated on the person you used to be during your most vulnerable years. This requires a cold and detached audit of your recurring failures to identify the underlying logic that keeps them active in your daily decision-making process. When you see a demon as nothing more than a redundant circuit, you gain the leverage required to bypass it with the force of your conscious will. This is the moment when you stop being a passenger in your own mind and start acting as the lead architect of your cognitive and emotional reality. The resistance you feel when trying to change a deep-seated habit is the sound of your biological programming fighting to maintain the status quo of your current existence. Your brain will create 1,000 excuses and trigger a wave of uncomfortable emotions to prevent you from stepping outside of the patterns that it has deemed necessary for your safety. You must learn to interpret this resistance not as a signal to stop, but as a confirmation that you are successfully attacking the roots of your old and limiting self. By pushing through this discomfort, you are literally rewiring your nervous system to support a new level of functioning that is aligned with your ultimate objectives. This is the internal work that separates the masters of destiny from those who remain trapped in the repetitive loops of their own unrefined history. Deciding that a pattern no longer serves your future is an act of supreme self-governance that requires you to prioritize your long-term legacy over your short-term comfort. Every time you consciously choose to act against an old impulse, you are starving a demon and feeding the version of yourself that is destined for true influence. This process is often lonely and exhausting because it requires a level of vigilance that most people find absolutely impossible to maintain for more than a few hours. However, the rewards for this labor are a level of mental clarity and a sense of internal peace that cannot be bought with money or granted by anyone else. You are reclaiming the energy that was once wasted on internal conflict and redirecting it toward the construction of your empire. You must be willing to sit in the silence and observe the arrival of your demons without being swept away by the emotional storms they try to initiate within your chest. When you watch a pattern emerge with a detached perspective, you begin to see the cracks in its logic and the futility of its continued existence in your current world. This observation is the beginning of the end for any habit that relies on your unconscious cooperation to remain active and influential. You are training your brain to recognize that the old threats are no longer present, and that the old defenses are now acting as barriers to your actual progress. This shift in perception is the primary requirement for anyone who wishes to achieve a state of total and unshakable self-mastery. The patterns you carry are often the result of lessons learned in environments that you have long since outgrown and left behind in the physical world. If you continue to use the strategies of a child to solve the problems of a leader, you will inevitably find yourself frustrated and stalled in your pursuits. You must ruthlessly update your internal operating system by deleting the files that were created in moments of weakness and replacing them with protocols derived from your moments of highest clarity. This update is not a one-time event, but a continuous process of refinement that ensures your mind remains a sharp and effective tool for your ambition. By taking full responsibility for your mental programming, you eliminate the possibility of being sabotaged by a ghost from your own forgotten past. Many people find comfort in their demons because it gives them an excuse to avoid the terrifying responsibility of realizing their own true and immense potential. If you can blame your lack of progress on a mysterious internal force, you never have to face the fact that you are the one holding the keys to your own prison. You must reject this victim narrative and embrace the cold reality that you are the only one capable of dismantling the structures that are holding you back. This realization is both a burden and a liberation because it means that your success is entirely dependent on your own willingness to do the hard internal work. When you stop hiding behind your shadows, you finally stand in the full light of your own capacity to change the world. True transformation is achieved when the new patterns you have created become more familiar and more comfortable to your brain than the old ones you have discarded. This requires a period of intense and focused repetition where you manually override your defaults until the new way of being becomes your primary and automatic response. You are building a new foundation of character that is based on the logic of achievement and the values of excellence, rather than the echoes of old traumas. This reconstruction of the self is the most difficult task a human being can undertake, but it is also the only one that yields a return of infinite value. You are becoming a person who is no longer haunted by the past, but is instead driven by the vast and limitless possibilities of the future. To change your life, you must first realize that your brain is wired to keep you safe rather than to make you great. This means your mind will always choose the path it already knows, even if that path is filled with misery and failure. You must stop looking for a complex solution and start focusing on the simple truth that you are currently choosing comfort over your own potential. Every time you stay in bed or avoid a difficult task, you are telling your brain that your old life is good enough for you. This internal lie is what keeps you trapped in a cycle of mediocrity while the years pass you by without any real progress. You must become the person who sees familiarity as a threat to their future and starts moving toward the hard work with a cold and steady resolve. The unknown effort required to reach your goals is the only thing standing between who you are and who you want to be. Most people never start because they are waiting for a map or a sign that the path ahead will be easy and free of any pain. You must accept right now that there is no such map and that the pain of growth is the only way to get where you are going. When you step into a new challenge, you are training your mind to stop fearing the dark and to start trusting your own ability to figure things out. This is not about being smart or lucky, but about being willing to do the work that others are too afraid to even try. By choosing the hard road, you are making a simple and powerful decision to own your life instead of letting it happen to you. Your mind will try to trick you by making your current problems feel like a warm blanket that you cannot leave behind. It is easier to complain about your boss or your bank account than it is to take full responsibility and start building a way out. This is because the pain you have now is known and your brain thinks it can handle it forever without any new risks. You must break this spell by realizing that the safety you feel is actually a slow death for your dreams and your unique spirit. To win, you must decide that the risk of failing at something new is much better than the certainty of failing at the life you have now. This shift in thinking is the first step toward a level of freedom and power that most people will never understand or reach. Simplicity is your greatest weapon in a world that tries to distract you with a million different options and complex theories. You do not need a new book or a special coach to tell you that you need to work harder and stay focused on your primary mission. The answers are already within you, but you are too busy listening to the noise of your own fear and the opinions of others. When you strip away the excuses, you are left with a clear choice between staying the same or becoming someone who actually matters. This choice does not require a deep study, but it does require a firm and immediate action that changes the direction of your day. By keeping your goals simple, you make them impossible to ignore and easier to execute with a level of cold and calculated precision. You must learn to see your own hesitation as a signal that you are getting close to the edge of your current limits. Instead of stopping when things get difficult, you should move faster, because that is where the real change happens in your character. The person you are today is not strong enough to hold the success you want tomorrow, which is why the transformation must be so thorough. This process is not a mystery, but a series of deliberate moves toward the version of yourself that does not take no for an answer. You are literally building a new mind by refusing to go back to the old ways of thinking that kept you small and afraid. Every small win is a brick in the wall of your new identity and a sign that you are finally taking control. There is a profound beauty in the cold logic of doing exactly what you said you would do regardless of how you feel in the moment. Feelings are temporary and often wrong, but your actions are permanent and they define who you are to the rest of the world. When you stop waiting to feel motivated, you become a force of nature that cannot be stopped by a bad mood or a cloudy day. This level of self-mastery is the foundation of a life that is built on results rather than on empty promises and hollow dreams. You must treat your own word as a sacred contract that cannot be broken for any reason at all. By doing this, you build a level of self-trust that will carry you through the darkest and most difficult times of your journey. The people who scare the world are not the ones with the most talent, but the ones who have the most discipline and the most focus. They have realized that the mind is a tool that must be sharpened every single day through the practice of hard work and deep concentration. You can become one of these people if you are willing to give up the need to be liked and the need to be comfortable all the time. This means you must be okay with being alone and being misunderstood by those who do not share your hunger for excellence. Your ambition is a lonely path, but it is the only one that leads to a legacy that will outlast your physical presence on this earth. By choosing the simple path of discipline, you are choosing to be a leader instead of a follower. You must stop overthinking your moves and start making them with a sense of urgency that borders on a total obsession. The more time you spend planning, the more time your brain has to come up with reasons why you should stay exactly where you are. A simple plan executed with violence and speed is always better than a perfect plan that never leaves the paper it was written on. You are in a race against time, and every second you waste is a second you will never get back to make your mark. Take the first step now, and do not look back at the life you are leaving behind, because it has nothing left to offer you. This momentum will build its own power, and soon you will find that you are moving faster than you ever thought possible. Every day is a test of whether you are moving toward your ante-vision or toward the life of your dreams through your own efforts. You must be honest with yourself about where you are spending your time and who you are allowing to influence your thoughts and your actions. If your current environment does not support your growth, then you must have the courage to leave it and find a new one that does. This might mean losing friends or changing your job, but the cost of staying is much higher than the cost of leaving. You are the only one who can save you, and the only one who can build the fortress of your future success. By taking full ownership of your life, you are finally becoming the master of your own soul and your own destiny. The final realization is that you have always had the power to change, but you were just too afraid of the effort it would take to do it.